As always, the Premier League weekend seems to throw up great games, great stories, and indeed great performances. And this weekend was no exception. Huge game for Manchester United against Spurs in London, and they got the result. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's job really was on the line, maybe, but many people felt after the humiliation they suffered from Liverpool the previous week that things were coming to a head for Solskjaer. Many other interesting games as well. Manchester City losing at home to Crystal Palace, and Patrick Vieira there is the new head coach showing signs, and indeed Arsenal also showing signs with a good win at Leicester. And to discuss all of that, I'm joined now by John Giles and Liam Brady. Liam, I'll start with you because we didn't have a chance to talk to you last week about Liverpool's demolition of United and the pressure it put on Solskjaer for this game at Spurs. It really was a demolition, wasn't it?
Oh, last week was, Eamon, yeah, and it was a good game to get. I think a few of the pundits mentioned that on TV. Yeah, it was a good game for Solskjaer to have. Tottenham are in poor form. They're a bit all over the place at the moment, Spurs, and United had quite a handy game, didn't they? But I think what Solskjaer did, and like he did against Liverpool, he had a way of playing set out.
Yes.
You know, he played three centre-backs. Varane came back in, and he had the two full-backs, Shaw and Wan-Bissaka, pushing on. And he had the two guys up front, 36 and 34 years of age, who were, Ronaldo and Cavani, and they got two brilliant goals. And it was quite a comfortable victory.
Yeah, it was indeed. John, before the Liverpool game, Solskjaer got a bit hyped up and he used the phrase, the front foot. He said, we're going to play on the front foot. And we know how that turned out because Liverpool were able to counter-attack, play through them with ease and could have scored 7 on the day. Very different against Spurs. They played as a counter-attacking team, really. Kept things really very tight at the back. Now, admittedly, Spurs have their problems, which you'll come on to. But if you look at United's results under Solskjaer, their away record is amazing. They've only lost one match away for a long time out of 23, 24 games. So the counter-attacking situation suited them. And if you have Ronaldo and Cavani up front, they really are outstanding, aren't they?
Yeah, they were very good, against a terrible Spurs team. I mean, if that's the way you win matches, why don't they do that at home? Yep. You can do that. I mean, I don't trying to be funny, but they got Spurs are in bits. Yep. They were terrible, and they took advantage of it, which is good. But the main thing was that their attitude was right. And that does happen when you've had a terrible performance the week before and they went out. And you'd have to acknowledge here, Eamon, as well, no Pogba.
Yeah, he was suspended for the game, and I suspect because of the red card he got.
I'm not saying because he was right, but the way they played, would they have played with Pogba, or do they play like that when Pogba was in the team? This is the main talking point, in my opinion, of Manchester United and the Pogba situation. I think he's a bad influence in Manchester United. He hasn't signed his contract, all the various things we've spoken about before. And it was a good performance by United, there's no doubt about that. But amazing the way it's changed. I mean, Nuno Santo is under severe pressure. Looks like he's going to be sacked, Damon. Yeah. Having gone into a game like with Manchester United, it looked like Solskjaer would be sacked. So it doesn't all change in a week. It can change for a week, but is it going to change not forever, but for Manchester United's point of view, I'm talking about in Solskjaer. Is it a one-off, or is it going to be consistent? It's the consistency that hasn't been there in the past, up to now.
Yeah, I think Liam taking Pogba's out of the team altogether, and Paul Scholes said this last week. He was very brave when he called it after the Atalanta match, even though they won 3-2. He said, if we play like that against Liverpool next Sunday, we'll be 3 or 4 down at half time. He was right. Again this week, he said Pogba should never play for Manchester United again, in his opinion. Now, he doesn't shoot off his mouth, Paul Scholes, and he's a very respected person in the game and was a great player. taking Pogba out of the equation altogether might help. Do you agree, Liam?
Yeah, I think we all agree that he's a bad person to have around the place. You don't know what you're going to get from him. Really, the only time he's played well has been for the French national team.
Yes.
In the World Cup, and he played with discipline, and he worked hard for the team. But he's really never done it for Manchester United since he's come back. After a spell at Juventus, he played very well at Juventus. Obviously, that was the reason that Man United felt that he wanted to go and get him again. But he's, I'm sure Solskjaer was pleased he was suspended because he didn't have to think about him.
Yes.
He just got on with it. But you just don't know what Solskjaer's plan is, Eamon. They spent all this money for Jadon Sancho from Borussia Dortmund.
Yes.
And he hasn't had a look in. And Van der Beek, the kid from Ajax, not a look in. So why are they buying all these players? There doesn't seem to be a strategy there or a plan.
That's right.
The only plan is, he's a good player, we'll buy him. But it doesn't really fit into the way he wants to do things. So I'd agree with John. This is probably just going to be a one-off, against Spurs. And they're going to have a big game, I think, against Man City next weekend, and a big game in the Champions League on Tuesday night, So I wouldn't say this is a vindication that that Solskjaer should carry on as manager. I think the club needs to get a kind of a plan and a strategy, and on the playing side of things, of how they're going to play, because that was a formation that suited them much better than the one they put up against Liverpool. Because if you're going to press high against a team like Liverpool, you have to have all your players doing it with the right attitude.
Yes.
But Ronaldo can't really do that anymore, Eamon.
No.
He's more suited to the way they played him against Spurs. And
exactly.
What a goal he got as well, Eamon. It was an unbelievable goal. It was one of the best goals I've seen him score,
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, I'm like John, as Liam says, I mean, we've seen him score so many goals. He scored so many, 650 or something. But all the elements of that goal, first of all, Fernandes' chip. Secondly, the defender was there, and it looked like, I think it was Dyer. He looked like he was going to get his head on it.
No, Davis.
Sorry, Ben Davis. That's right. Yeah, it looked as if. But Ronaldo's poise and his commitment and the timing and the placing, it was a sublime goal, wasn't it? In the circumstances as well.
That's Ronaldo, Eamon.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about the defender, actually, the defender was in a terrible position, Eamon.
Yeah.
To be honest, he should have been 2 yards behind Ronaldo when he was level with him. So when they were trying to get at the ball, he couldn't get at the ball. But that's Ronaldo, Eamon.
Yeah.
He's done it for years. But if you talk about the Liverpool match, and they're saying about him, not running down defenders, and he never ever did that.
No,
he's never done that. And I just have to go back to one point that Lee mentioned there about the Van der Beek and
Sancho.
And Sancho.
Yeah,
I mean, who bought them?
That's the question exactly. It's 120 million, by the way, for the two of them. 40 million for Donny Van der Beek and 80 million for Jadon Sancho, and that's the point, isn't it?
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, that's the problem. Solskjaer is the manager, right? And manager in all the top teams. You take Klopp and you take Guardiola. Now you got Tuchel at it. You can feel and sense certainly they're in charge of the situation. Who comes, who goes, which is 90% of the job.
Yep.
In Solskjaer's case, I don't think he's in charge of that. I don't think he's ever been in charge of that. And that's where you get the inconsistency. Yeah, it was a good performance the other day. Now, are they going to go on a run? Are they going to do what Liverpool have done? Have Manchester City done? And Tuchel? I doubt it.
No.
I just want very, very much.
On that point, Liam, Antonio Conte, who we know from his work at Chelsea in the Premier League, won the title, went to Inter, who weren't doing great, won the title last year. He said and that scene and this man, he said he would be interested in the Manchester United job, but he said he would have to be in charge of buying and selling. So that would appear And I think John's right. We don't know who bought these players. It would appear to rule him out. Do you think he'd do well at United?
You see, Conte has authority. I mean, he has pedigree. He fell out at Chelsea over the same situation. I think Abramovich wanted to buy the players or buy some of the players, but Conte has the track record to be able to say to a club, "Look, I'd love to manage your club, but I want to be in charge of everything to do with football matters."
Yeah.
And I don't know whether the people at United want to do that, because it's a business, Eamon, isn't it? It's a huge, huge business, and I think that's why they bought the likes of Sancho and Van de Beek. It's like, whoa, they're good players, let's get them to the club. But there's no real strategy, and I agree with John. I don't think Solskjaer is in any way, shape or form in charge of transfers. I think he's just happy to be the manager of Manchester United, a club that he loves. He's a lovely guy, but he hasn't got the authority of these top coaches, has he?
No, he hasn't.
And I think all United fans, they realise that now. They realise that they want him to do well, but they don't expect him to do well.
John, until United and the Glazers, who are the people who call the shots there, until they do the right thing, they're not going to recover and be where Manchester United Football Club expects to be. That is, in contention for everything.
No, I don't. You've any chance, Eamon, of doing it. I think the manager. It's been proven over the history of the game, Eamon, that Ferguson came in and did his stuff, and he was in charge of the situation. Like I found in my small time in management that 90% of the job. 90% of the job is getting the players in that you want, and getting rid of the players that you don't want.
Yes,
because every manager has a vision. I don't know if that's the right word.
Yes,
of what the team they want to be, and the players that they want in the club to fit in there and fit in there. That right, what's wrong with that? If you don't get that, then your vision is not fulfilled in any way whatsoever. If the business people, which I believe at Manchester United, are buying the players, and I think when they brought Solskjaer in, it was exactly who they wanted.
Yeah.
They don't want a Conte because it goes against what they want to do.
Here's the irony, Liam and John, both of you. If an Alex Ferguson came along, he wouldn't have a chance, would he?
No, they're probably not. But as I say, the football, since Ferguson came to Manchester United after being a brilliant manager for Aberdeen, he had that clout, I think Arsenal wanted him around the same time, so he was well sought after. So he could say, well, I'm coming, I'm in charge of things. But it was a lot easier in those days. Now football is a huge business.
Yeah.
And you've got the commercial department and the executives all want to have a say in things. And it makes it really, really difficult for a manager to be totally in control.
Yeah,
and I think there are a few out there who have that pedigree.
Yes,
but they're difficult to find nowadays.
Yeah, just a point.
Conte is there, Liam. You see, the point I'm trying to make here is that Solskjaer is exactly what they wanted, Eamon.
Yes.
He wasn't a well-known manager, and it was a great job for him to come in. It didn't have the clout to say, this is what I want to do, and I'm insisting on doing it. And the people who are there, we don't know who they are, suited them down to the ground. Of course, they're businessmen, and they're good at doing their business, but football management is not business.
Well, they say Ferguson is very much in his corner, John.
Yeah.
I'm not disputing that, Liam. I'm sure he is. Did he actually have a say in getting him in? I'm not so sure. Of course he's going to be in his corner because he likes him and he wants him to do well. But if you said to Ferguson initially, you're in charge of picking the manager, and you had the likes of Conte available and Solskjaer available, there's no doubt who you would want to go to for success on the field. You see, what these fellas are doing behind the scene, they want success off the field in managing the money situation. That's why you have Van de Beek and you have the other lad in Sancho doing what you're doing. You'd have to say now, and I think you agree, did Solskjaer make those decisions?
No.
And if he's not making those decisions, he's not in charge. And if he's not in charge, you get what you're getting which is inconsistency of performances on the pitch.
And let me give you a good example, both of you. You probably know this, but anyway. But Ronaldo cost 20 million. That's his wages. They got him for more or less nothing. They sold 200 million worth of shirts 2 weeks after he joined the club. That's a figure they understand. The football side of it is different.
Yeah, commercially you'll get your money back in the first couple of years, without any doubt. Juventus did the same trick in Turin when they took him from Real Madrid,
Right, yeah, exactly. Okay, we're going to move on to football. And
well, you got to talk about Spurs, Eamon. They're in trouble, aren't they? I'm not just saying that because I'm an Arsenal man, but, you go back to 2 years ago and they looked at a team that was going places, didn't they? And
they sacked Pochettino.
Yeah, I know. They have an executive there, Daniel Levy, in charge. Yeah. But, the thing they had going for them in the recent seasons was the three lads up front. And the way Harry Kane is performing now, that whole thing is broken down. Son doesn't look the same player. No. And defensively, they've got two new lads in Emerson and Romero. They looked all over the place against Manchester United. Yeah. So that club has changed. And when you think that they put a hell of a lot of money into that stadium, Eamon.
$1 billion.
Yeah, there's what do you think, John, of that Spurs team now?
Well, again, you have to go back like a couple of years. They had a really good manager in Pochettino, right? And Levy got rid of him.
Yeah.
Right? Now they haven't had a manager since because there's nobody will go there because they know Levy is in charge of the situation and they're not in charge of the situation. So I think Nuno is what, seventh choice. He interviewed Conte, didn't he? I think Conte walked out after 5 minutes when he heard what he wanted him to do.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to manage it there. So in the end, you're going to get what Spurs are getting at the moment, which is bad management. I feel sorry for Nuno. I don't think he's had a chance at Spurs. But that's the situation. And the Harry Kane situation, I mean, there's no doubt that Harry Kane wanted to go to Manchester City. It looked like he was going. So his mind had made up and his mentality, obviously, going to play with Manchester City. Now he's back at Spurs. And I don't see how his head could be right to play for Spurs in a way that he was playing for Spurs before the Manchester City thing came in.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I agree. 100%.
They're a mess all round. And that goes back, in my opinion, to Mr. Levy doing what he's trying to do, which is making a mess of it.
Yeah, he's notoriously heavy-handed and hands-on in all football matters. And just a point, Liam, that occurs to me. Nuno Espirito Santo was a very good coach, I thought, at Wolves. Did a really good job for a couple of years. And I think he looked sad.
The expectation's unrealistic there, isn't it, with the team they've got,
The question I want to ask you in particular, they've built a new stadium. Very much, it's everyone who goes there says it's wonderful, fantastic. Arsenal similarly built a new stadium and they spent all the money on the stadium. It's a magnificent stadium. And yet Spurs are in the same boat now. But you lose your team. It's one of the oldest things in football, isn't it? Do you want a great team or do you want a great stadium? And can you have both?
Well, you can if you have endless amounts of money, like maybe the Arab owners or Abramovich at Chelsea and so forth. But not when you're running a business as well, because all your money goes into the stadium, which happened at Arsenal and it's happened at Spurs, and then you don't have the resources to compete with other teams in the transfer market.
Yeah.
But I agree with John 100% that Levy, this time round has just been too heavy-handed with the managerial situation. Pochettino had done a great job for him, and then he has a few indifferent results, and he's out, and then he brings Mourinho in with a big fanfare, and he let Mourinho get on with it for a while anyway, and that didn't work, So I think Daniel Levy's had the spotlight well and truly turned on him.
Yep, and we'll see.
I feel sorry for Santos as well because he's inherited this Harry Kane business. That really is eating away at the team spirit in the club.
Now, Liam, Patrick Vieira, great former Arsenal player. He went to Palace as manager. He'd been, I think, in managing or coaching in France. He went to Palace at the start of the season, and the big upset really on Saturday was Palace going to Manchester City and winning 2-0. Laporte had been sent off, I thought, rather harshly for a foul that really, when you look at it, Wilf Zaha had a long way to go to score a goal. But anyway, they beat 10 men. They played well, John. They looked as if it wasn't a backs to the wall job. This team is passing the ball, supporting each other, and they played really well.
Yeah, I saw them a few matches, Eamon, this season, and they seem to get better and better every time I saw them. They're very, very good. He's done a really big job there. There's no doubt about that. And I didn't think he would do so well. I don't know why. Don't know the lad at all. Yeah. I don't think he had a good reputation in management, but he's certainly has done a big job there. And they've been anytime I've seen him this season, they've been very, very good.
Yeah, Liam, you know Patrick Vieira, of course, because of his time at Arsenal when you were there. He was a huge friend of Roy Keane's in those duels. But there was no hint that John or I saw that he had a pedigree to be top coach. And maybe this is a great opportunity for him because Palace aren't sort of frightened of teams now. In fact, they were very anxious to go and pass the ball wherever they played.
Well, his track record, Eamon, wasn't great. He started in New York at the Saturday club that Man City owned, and then he went on to manage Nice in France. And Nice is a bit of a basket case as regards the running of the club. So he was up against it there. And this has been just such a welcome opportunity for him. You know, he has a good squad of players. I think you have to give Roy Hodgson credit that he left the club in a good place when he left. Yes. I think Roy's tactics were much more stringent than Vieira's. I think Vieira's let the team off the leash a bit, and he has them playing out from the back, has them playing with confidence. I watched them a couple of weeks ago at the Emirates, and they should have beaten Arsenal. They were the better team. They were winning 2-1 with a couple of minutes to go when Lacazette, who come on as sub, got the equaliser for Arsenal, and he probably deserved to win that match. They've only lost against Chelsea and Liverpool in the league, and they've drawn 6 times, Eamon, and games they could have easily have won, so they could really be up the top 8. So he has done a really good job. The kid Gallagher in midfield, he's
Conor Gallagher, he's qualified to play for us.
From Chelsea, and he's playing really, really well. He was brilliant against Arsenal, and he was brilliant again against Manchester City. I do agree that City were a little bit hard done by. Looked a bit 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, that tangle, but the referee said he was the last man, so he had to go. So that was a big break for Palace. And Vieira said it in his interview after the game. He said, we had breaks today that we just haven't been getting so far this season. So good luck to him. It was a good weekend for the underdogs in the Premiership, wasn't it? You know, with Brighton going to Liverpool as well. But Palace are certainly playing really well, and he got Zaha back in the last couple of weeks, and he's a dangerous player, you know. But Gallagher has been outstanding for them.
Yeah, John. I want to move on now to one of what might be called underdogs, Brighton. 2-0 down at Anfield. Liverpool in the form they're in, and yet they played their way back into the game. We've spoken about Graham Potter, the Brighton head coach, before. They really played well. They could have actually beaten Liverpool, and they were playing through Liverpool's midfield, which was sort of without Milner, without Fabinho, Henderson on his own, really. He's done a really good job, hasn't he, at Brighton? They're a good team, John, and playing the game the way you like it. Everyone likes to see the game playing. Pass movement, invention?
I think it's been fantastic, Eamon.
Yeah.
I think he's one for the future. There's no doubt. What he's doing there at Brighton, I think, is fantastic.
Yeah.
As you say, he goes to Liverpool, when most managers in his position say, right, we've got to keep it tight, we've got to get plenty of players behind the ball and all that. He did that.
Yeah.
And when they had a chance to attack, which all the top managers do, great managers do in my opinion, okay, you defend when you have to defend and you attack when you have the opportunity. It sounds very simple, but a lot of people don't do it. But he's done it. He's done it, week in and week out. Every time we've seen him, Eamon, it's gone to Liverpool 2-0 down. As you say, I think I only saw the highlights on it, but they certainly looked to have the chances to win the game. And they certainly got at Liverpool in a big way that you would expect, having gone 2 down early on in the game.
Yeah.
And if you go into the game saying, right, we're going to keep it tight, then you have no chance of coming in. But I think what I've seen so far with that lad, and very modest, Eamon. No, he's not looking for publicity. He's not big-mouthed in any way. Gets on with the job. And I think he's the coming manager. There's no doubt in what he's doing at the moment.
Yeah, Liam, last year, when they were flirting with relegation, they were down among the dead men, always kept playing, no shouting at referees, no tantrums on the touchline, always calm. And you can see over the 3 years he's been there, or 4 maybe, he's built a team, hasn't he? And it's very impressive.
Yeah, he had to change the mentality. I think a bit like Patrick Vieira at Palace. Graham Potter came in after Chris Hughton, and Chris had the team very, very disciplined, but he didn't really try to win many games. He was looking for draws more than wins, and he was just hoping that they might scrape a 1-0 here and there. Whereas Potter has changed the mentality of the team completely. And you have to say that the players they brought in, bargain buyers in the transfer market, have been excellent for them as well. Like the lad who got the goal, Trossard, the equaliser, the second goal, he gave Liverpool all sorts of problems with his running up front. And he took his goal very well. They got him from Genk for very little money.
Yep.
Bissouma in midfield, Eamon, I think there's going to be one of the big clubs. It might even be Manchester United, to go for him. He's a miles better player than Fred,
Yeah.
And I can see him going to a big club, but maybe at the end of this season. But no, they're very, very good. I thought Liverpool just got a little bit complacent, a little bit sloppy, winning 2-0, could have gone 3-0 up, but the VAR disallowed it for the handball of Mane.
Yeah.
I just thought Liverpool had the feeling we're going to win this anyway, and you can't have that attitude. Once you drop a level or switch off a bit, especially against a team like Brighton, who are playing with a lot of confidence, and Brighton thoroughly deserved the draw.
Yeah, John, just on the ease with which teams play through Liverpool, even Manchester United for little moments last week, letting Wijnaldum go, he was 30 years of age, letting him go on a free transfer because they wouldn't give him the wages he was looking for. He's now sitting on the bench at PSG. That was a big mistake from Liverpool. And it's a mistake they might make with Salah as well. They still haven't done the deal with him. These American owners can really dig holes for themselves, can't they?
Well, certainly when you have players like that, I mean, Wijnaldum and you got to get it done straight away.
Yeah.
You can't be leaving it in the future or letting Wijnaldum go, for example. I'd say Klopp would be going mad about that, you know.
Yeah.
But they don't. Funny enough, Van Dijk doesn't seem to be the same, Eamon. You know?
Really? Have you? Yeah, I'm never sure with him because he makes everything look so easy when he is. And his distribution, his use of the ball, in fact, for one of the goals, was very important. But tell me, what do you see that is different?
I don't. He doesn't seem to be dominating as much, Eamon.
Right.
You know, he doesn't seem to be in there dominating. Maybe he's lost a bit of pace. He had a very bad injury, as we know, and it does take a bit of time to get over it. I remember reading the paper fairly recently. He was saying that himself.
Yes.
He's not quite back to himself because he had a very serious injury, as we know.
Yeah, ligaments.
But he just doesn't look as dominant. You know, he doesn't seem to be organising people around him as he did and get to the ball, the pitch of the ball himself quite as much. Because They did give a few chances away. I know Brighton did extremely well, And it might be just one of those days. And as Liam said, maybe when they got 2 up, they thought, well, this is going to be a stroll, which can happen when the team comes back at you. But they like from haven't been playing very, very well, but haven't been given much away to give what they did. But I just looking at Van Dijk, I just think, I'm not sure where he's quite as dominant as he was before he got the injury, and that's not unusual either, you know.
No, Liam, just to run that past you, that Wijnaldum decision, which I was kind of, as a Liverpool fan, I was always sort of bigging him up because he did so much work, invisible work, if you like, covering, reading the game in midfield, always turned up. And I think he only missed 11 games or something in 5 years or whatever. He gets to 30, he's out of contract, and they won't look after him because of this Moneyball idea. You can't let a player of his caliber go, can you, for nothing?
No, well, I think we said it, on quite a few podcasts, Simon, that he is a big misfit in that middle of the field. Yeah. There's nobody quite as good as him, what he does. He can play, and he stops other people from playing. Yeah. And I think Thiago hasn't lived up to the thought that they had about that he was going to step in and run the show in midfield. I don't think that's happened. And to go on to what John was saying about Van Dijk, I thought he looked very casual. He's like he has that in him, you know. Yeah. But I don't know whether it's got anything to do with his injury, but he just did look casual on Saturday against Brighton. Right.
Okay, now, Arsenal, Liam, I had them dead and buried. I think John and I had him dead and buried. I'm not sure where they're sixth in the table at the moment, and they're showing signs. The game against Leicester, I thought they really started the game on fire. Saka and Smith Rowe, very good young players, and an amazing save from Aaron Ramsdale, the goalkeeper, from a Maddison free kick just before half time, but a crucial moment in the match. He's done his best, Arteta, hasn't he, with a bad hand?
Well, he hasn't bought very well, Eamon. You know, right. And that would be my major criticism.
Yeah, Pepe comes to mind.
The transfer deals this time round look much better than they have been previously, you know?
Yeah.
He got Willian from Chelsea, and that was like giving the guy a pension, you know. Yeah. He failed. David Luiz, I think they renewed his contract. There's no Xhaka in midfield because he's got an injury, but he gave him a new contract as well. Yeah. And you know how I feel about him. I don't rate him at all.
No.
So he's kind of stumbled upon a good team again. I wouldn't say it's down to good planning.
Right.
As I said to you, against Crystal Palace, they should have lost that match as Palace were a better team. And Lacazette came on and scored a goal. And then he played Lacazette against Aston Villa, who led the line very, very well. And he led the line well against Leicester on Saturday. He's a good player, Lacazette. His attitude is right. Yeah. And they started really well. You mentioned the two lads, the two young players from the academy, Saka and Emile Smith-Rowe. And they really caught Leicester on the hop, and they got 2 goals ahead. But after about 30 minutes, Leicester took over in all over the park. They took over, and it was only down to Ramsdale that stopped Arsenal from his performance really gave Arsenal that victory. But they could have so easily lost the match. If it wasn't for him, you know. Leicester dominated them in the second half. So I think that 2-0 win over Leicester flattered them a bit, if I'm honest, Eamon.
Okay, John, 2 final things. Chelsea, 3-0 at Newcastle. Lukaku missing and a couple of Mason Mount missing. And it took them 65 minutes to get their nose in front. But they're 3 points clear now, top of the table, and you think they're going to be there for a long time.
Yeah. It took them a while, Eamon, but in the end they won very comfortably. I mean, Newcastle's a basket case at the moment. And they've got this guy in now, this Graham Jones. You see him? He came in with Bruce. He had an awful lot to say for himself, Eamon. He's in charge of it now. and they played much better with Bruce than they did on Saturday.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's by the way. He seemed to be full of himself, but I don't think he's going to. And they look really, really bad and down. But Chelsea looked very, very comfortable. The fullback James scored 2 great goals.
Oh, he did.
One with his right foot, one with his left foot. So they really killed him. In the end, it was a good performance by Chelsea and an easy performance in the end. So I'm just going to go back.
Eamon, if you're going to pick a team, if you're going to pick a team, John Eamon, that's going to make the fewest mistakes, this attitude is going to be probably right most of the time. You'd have to say it's going to be Chelsea, and that's why they are favourite to win the league. I think they've got a good attitude week in, week out. Liverpool, I thought, were a bit sloppy on Saturday. United, you don't know what you're going to get. That would be my opinion of it.
Yeah, and they have a manager, Eamon. This fella's a real manager.
Yeah.
I just got to go back one little thing on the Arsenal thing, Liam, with Ramsdale. I mean, he was absolutely brilliant, wasn't he, in the match?
Yeah, very surprised, John. I was very surprised. He's played well since he's been in, really. But I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I would never have touched him at Sheffield United.
No, because at Sheffield United, he was terrible. Yeah,
I thought he was poor. I thought because they paid about 40 million for him, didn't they? They paid a lot of money for him.
I think Sheffield United paid a lot of money for him, but I think Arsenal paid in around 25 to 30 million. But I thought, why are they buying him? But I hope it's not just one swallow in a summer, John. You know what I mean?
No, but I've seen him in matches prior to and he was very good. He was very impressive. I thought, God, what are they doing with him? But on Saturday, I mean, it's one of the best performances I've ever seen from a goalkeeper. Actually, he was absolutely brilliant. Anyway, that's it. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry about that, Eamon.
Just to mention Leeds, because all your fans listen to this podcast, John, and they're all Leeds fans.
Yeah.
They got their result to Norwich, who, God love them, are doomed. Andrew Omabamidele scored on his league debut. Great header from a set piece, but Leeds did them in the end.
Did him in the end, Eamon, but losing another goal from a set piece, especially corners.
Yeah.
What they have a habit of doing, have for a while. Yeah. When they're marking up, they're pulling and pushing the opposition, Eamon.
Yeah.
They've cost a lot of goals from Spain. And when they do that, pulling up, and the fella gets away from you, he's totally free. And this is what happened on the weekend. It was a corner kick, Eamon. Now, they got away with it, really, because Norwich, as you alluded to there, were terrible. They're really, really poor. I mean, they're way down. They've no chance of doing anything. And they got away with it, Leeds, in the end. They were the better team, as you would expect them to be. But they lost a goal that was ridiculous. I haven't just got in front. But deserved to win in the end. So it was a valuable 3 points for them, Eamon. They've had a lot of injuries. Yeah. Bamford was not there. Ayala's not. Like, they've had a few injuries, and they don't have a big squad, as we know. So I think they will, when they get those players back, get out of trouble. But just about get out of trouble the way they're going.
Okay, John and Liam, thank you both very much for joining us today. John Giles and Liam Brady, 2 great players and 2 great pundits. We're very grateful to the lads, to all of you for listening.